Homer eats Whopper, takes 75. Action!
If you've never worked at Burger King, there are a few things you may not know about the fast food restaurant. Here are 10 bizarre rules Burger King employees must obey.
The rules are, there are no rules.
Overtime.
For overtime due. Keith, overtime due.
Overtime tends to be an optional thing at a lot of workplaces. But at Burger King, overtime is not optional. At least according to the General Employee Handbook released for Burger King employees. The Employee Handbook states that all employees are expected to work overtime whenever it's scheduled for them. And if they refuse to work it, they are subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. Meaning, if you're scheduled for overtime that you're unable to work, you may be punished, which could include losing your job entirely. This is a bit of an unfair rule, as not everyone has the capability of working overtime. Some employees have to schedule their work hours around transportation availability or childcare availability. Oftentimes, it's students who work at places like Burger King.
I can't tonight. I got to start.
Stark internship.
Yeah, exactly.
And adding overtime to their already overwhelming schedules can be way too much for them. So if you're a student, someone with a second job, or someone with other obligations to attend to outside of your regular work hours, Burger King may not be the place to work for you. If you're hoping to work some extra hours and have no other obligations that the overtime hours can interfere with, Burger King is the perfect place. IM and email.
Chucky Lover 53.
AOL.com.
BK's company policies about using instant messengers and company email are pretty strict. It's important for employees to be careful what they send over the instant messenger and email. All companies that provide access to email and IM usually have rules on how they can be used, though they tend to not be as strict as Burger King seems to be with theirs. The company monitors all communications sent and received on these platforms, and any content that they deem inappropriate or not professional can get you disciplined. So if you send an IM to your work friend thinking that something is just a joke, you could get in trouble if the company doesn't think it's appropriate. If you want to send your work friends a funny joke that you heard, or anything along those lines, you're better off either doing so through texting, phone call, or in person, and avoiding the company communication methods. While it's understandable that certain things could lead to you losing your job, including jokes that could be considered offensive,
What? Agree.
it must be nerve-wracking to know that if someone misreads or misunderstands a message you send, you could potentially lose your job. If you work at Burger King, it's best to keep all your communication within the company as professional as possible, and don't try to lighten up emails with a joke. At-will employment.
I'm gonna fire you faster than you can say yo MTV Raps.
One of the oddest things found in the Employee Handbook is the fact that employees are considered at-will employees, unless they're upper management employees. For those who don't know what at-will employment is, it means that no matter how long you've worked for the company, they can terminate you at any point, whether they have a cause to do so or not. There is no protection at your job at all. Even if you've worked there for multiple years, you could be fired simply because a new manager comes in and they don't like you. They wouldn't need an actual performance-based reason to do so.
Stanley Hudson, you are fired.
Most jobs have a probationary period where you can be fired for any reason during that time, but after the probationary period, the company has to have a valid reason to get rid of you. If a company wants to fire you after your probationary period, they have to typically follow a sequence of warnings and discussions before they can do so, or they have to pay you severance if they let you go without warning. These guidelines are put in place to make sure employees are not being gotten rid of for no reason, and they're given a second chance to improve their performance rather than just being fired without any type of extra training. At Burger King, they don't allow for a probationary period. Instead, they can get rid of you for any reason without warning at any time. Dating.
PDAs are totally superfluous to a happy, healthy office romance.
Having a policy on romantic relationships, especially those between superiors and their employees, is nothing new or out of the ordinary. Basically, every company has one. These policies are in place to protect the company should the relationship turn sour, and the employees decide that somehow the company was at fault for what happened. This isn't the bizarre part of BK's rules that employees have to follow. The part that is bizarre is the fact that if a relationship is not reported properly, via filling out paperwork and talking to management, the employees could lose their jobs. It's hard to tell when you should report a romantic relationship, as they usually start at different levels, and can involve romantic feelings and actions without it being considered a relationship.
What did you say?
How beautiful.
So how can someone determine whether or not the relationship was reported in a timely manner? This is something that is completely subjective, and while the employees who are romantically involved may have one view on whether they're in a relationship of any kind or not, management may have a completely different view. So it seems as if employees who are or may become involved either have to jump the gun and report anything immediately, or they risk potentially losing their jobs if management determines that they were in a relationship earlier than the employees said they actually were. Customer complaints.
Look at this sorry, miserable squashed thing.
Many companies prefer that their employees attempt to resolve customer complaints on their own before going to management about it. This saves a lot of time for managers if they don't have to respond to every single customer complaint. Burger King wants employees to go directly to managers with any customer complaint, big or small. They prefer that their employees don't even attempt to resolve any complaints, and they expect their management team to handle even the simplest issue with any customer. This seems like a bit much, as there are many small issues that employees should be trusted to resolve themselves without having to get management involved.
You can't sell hamburgers here. This is a Burger King.
It makes it feel like BK doesn't trust their employees to handle something that may have a simple solution. And it puts more work on management who may be busy elsewhere. While employees may not be equipped to deal with all situations and may not have the authority to offer certain customer appeasement items, they should at least be trusted to deal with the more basic complaints. Some customer complaints simply need something cleaned, something remade, and a quick apology. And those are things that any employee can handle without having to bother management. It's extremely bizarre that Burger King does not want their employees dealing with issues that customers bring forth. Exchanging shifts.
Deal?
Deal.
Burger King encourages employees not to trade shifts with each other, and if they really have to for reasons such as doctor's appointments or other important obligations, it has to be approved by management. And there's a chance they'll decide not to approve it. In theory, it shouldn't matter if employees choose to trade shifts with each other as long as they let their manager know when they've decided to trade, and as long as both employees are equally trained in their specific job roles.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. No, you can't!
It makes sense to let them switch shifts on their own, rather than having to have management's approval every time someone wants to switch shifts. Most employees are competent enough to make sure that the person they're switching shifts with is able to properly cover the shift they're taking over. Switching shifts is an easy way to ensure that you're not losing work hours when taking time off for important appointments if needed. On top of this, the handbook directs management to turn down requests for switching shifts if the switch is happening simply because it's more convenient for the employees. Attitude.
I'm sadness.
Oh, hello. I'm Joy.
When working any job, it can be hard to keep a positive attitude all the time, especially if there are issues with coworkers or issues at home. And it makes sense that a company wouldn't want an employee who's negative or talking trash about coworkers, customers, or the company. But the fact that there's actually a statement in the Burger King handbook saying that employees have to display a positive attitude towards their job at all times is a bit much.
Smile.
Of course, employees understand that they're not supposed to trash talk the company or management at work, and that they're supposed to put a smile on for the customers. But the fact that you can be terminated if your manager determines your attitude is not positive enough is pretty bizarre. While you may think that you're approaching things with a good attitude, you could be punished if your manager doesn't think the same. It's completely subjective as to what a positive attitude is, and some people are naturally bubbly and excited, while other people are a lot more toned down. And while they may not be as energetic, it doesn't mean that they're not being positive. All jobs, especially those that deal with customers directly, require you to be personable. But being able to be fired if your manager doesn't think you're being positive enough is bizarre. Inspections.
Here we are. Surprise inspection.
Burger King can choose to provide lockers or storage spaces for employees to store their items while at work. This is convenient for employees who bring backpacks, purses, jackets, or other items with them when they head to work. Employees have to provide their own locks if they wish to be able to lock their belongings away while working, and they have to take them home with them when they're done with their shifts.
I gotta run.
This is all pretty standard and makes sense. And these lockers seem to be a nice little thing that Burger King does for its employees that not all workplaces do. The catch? Employee lockers are subject to being searched at any time without any advance notice to employees, which means at any time during the employee's workday, their management could be in the back, digging through their locker without them having a clue or knowing it was going to happen. This policy extends to your personal bags as well. So if you store your purse in a locker at work, management can choose to actually go through your purse at any time they choose. This feels like an extreme invasion of privacy, and one that employees may not even be aware is happening while they're working. Bereavement leave.
Not yet.
If you're an employee of Burger King who is below the level of store manager, you may be surprised to find out that you are not entitled to paid bereavement leave. Bereavement leave are days taken off due to the death of a direct family member, including but not limited to parents, spouses, and children. For any employee that is below the level of store manager, even if they work full-time hours, they have to take unpaid leave to deal with the passing of a family member. This seems extremely unfair, as the employees who are below store manager level are typically the ones that are paid the least and tend to be the people who can't afford to take any extra days off, meaning their choice involves being short the money they may need for bills, rent, or groceries, or working while grieving a lost loved one, being expected to have a positive attitude the whole time while they're at work.
Are you crying?
No, I just have something in both my eyes.
It can be up to the individual manager if they decide to let you have unpaid time off to deal with grief and all the other issues that come along with it. But for a lot of people, taking time off like that isn't an option, as they can't afford it. Locations.
Go on, get out, 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 out. Out of the kitchen, go on!
While you may be hired to work at a specific Burger King location, they reserve the right to make you work at a different location at any time, as long as it's within 30 miles of the location you were actually hired at. Refusal to work shifts at other locations can result in disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment. This is particularly unfair because some employees are unable to drive and rely on their ability to walk, bike, or take public transport. It's much harder for these employees to get to locations that may be up to 30 miles away, and they likely applied to and accepted the job at the specific location because it's close and easy for them to get to. For those employees who can drive, it's also unfair because it means they have to pay for their own gas and the wear and tear it puts on their car in order to travel to a different location.
This is my car! My car! My car! My car! Mine!
In most cases with employers, if you're hired to work at a certain location, that's the place that you will continue to work, unless you put in for a transfer or you're offered a promotion or transfer that you voluntarily take and move to a different location. It's not common for jobs to just expect their employees to work wherever they need them to. At least they've implemented a maximum distance and don't make their employees drive for several hours just to cover a shift. Stick around and check out another great BabbleTop video. Just tap or click. Thanks.